Sorry, guys. So again, we are recording this. It's going to be on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ZSKmachines, and you should get the link from the email that I send after this. So again, please make sure to, if you do have a question, put it in your question box, and I'll be able to kind of see a little warning that there is a question out there. And then, of course, if you do have any questions after this, feel free to email me or give me a call. I've been a little backlogged. We have a big trade show coming up in Michigan for an automotive. It's something completely different than normal embroidery, but it should be exciting. So, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and show my screen. And just let me know, too, if anybody's having any connectivity issues. It seems that the last time there was a little bit of voice going in and out, but I think that was on the receiver's end. But if anybody does have, any problems, type in the question box and I'll be able to see. So, all right, let's go ahead and start. Now, with IDS, what I want to talk about with artwork is that when we do insert an image and it's brought in, the program may read it different ways, such as a scanned image, a photograph, or a simple artwork. And this is based on the artwork itself. If it's nice, clean artwork, or if it's artwork that maybe has a lot of problems with it, and it just doesn't read very nicely, or it reads a whole bunch of colors. The program is based on color recognition. So according to the colors, it draws around each color, and that's how it makes the shape. And then it'll fill that shape with stitches, and it'll fill it with the stitches that it thinks is appropriate, based on the size of the area, and it will also route things. But, computers aren't always correct, and there are times that we do have to go in there and we do have to change things because it's just not either routing properly, or we don't like the stitch that's in there, or, even the type of garment that we are stitching on. So I brought up a couple different images, and these are all vector files. Now, vector means that they are nice and clean and defined. If I zoom in real close here, you can see they're nice, smooth lines, and very, very clean artwork. I don't have any variants of color on the edges here. It's a perfect, in a sense, piece of art right now. But I'm going to show you how it can not be a perfect piece of art. And it's, we don't always have this kind of artwork available to us, nor, do customers have this kind of artwork available to them. So I'm going to show you, even with a simple piece of artwork, how it can read in quite differently depending on, how, what kind of file it is. So with this guy right here, now this is a very simple logo. And just to give you a background on this, it is a vector image, so it's nice and clean. And if I select it and I go and look at the size here, now I'm working in Illustrator. Just a disclaimer here, I am not an Illustrator guru or anything like that. I know how to get my way around it, and I know enough to make me dangerous. But if I click this transform button right here, I am seeing that this image itself is 10 inches by 4 inches. So the bigger the better in a sense, because it's nice and clean, and as it is bigger, um, it can, if we brought it into the software at this size, it would probably look really, really nice. But as you get smaller, as we know, with like smaller lettering and things like that, things do seem to jumble up. And, not just talking about the artwork, but just talking about stitches. So I'm going to show you, we're going to do an exercise here where I'm going to show you that we're going to take this and export it one way from Illustrator as a certain file type. And we're going to export it a couple different ways to show you how, the quality of images can go down even if they look perfect on screen. And we're going to kind of, look at it and dissect it a bit. So in a perfect world, if we had a perfect, a vector file, and we have Illustrator or CorelDRAW, or any sort of vector program, we can export this as a TIFF file. I have found this way to be the easiest and best way to export a vector. So now I'm in Illustrator, you may have Corel, and like I said, by no means am I an expert on this, but I know enough to make me dangerous. So I'm going to go to export here, and I'll export as, and I'm going to use a TIFF file. And what we're going to do, I made a special folder here under my desktop, and this is the October webinar, and I'm just going to name this Leaf 1. This is going to be our first export, which is probably going to be the best one. I'll go ahead and hit export, and when I come on, after I hit the export button, I'll get a option box. And this option box gives me some things that I can choose between. As far as the color model, you have RGB and CMYK as well as grayscale. But for threads, if you ever look at a thread chart or ever, see what the color values are, they're actually RGB values, which is red, green, blue. You also have CMYK, which is, printers are based off of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So whenever we are using the digitizing program, I usually like to choose RGB. So that's the color order of our colors. So it'll do my color matching best if I use the RGB. The resolution here, we don't need to go higher than 300 usually, especially something this big. If we do go higher, it makes the actual file large in size. Not physical size as far as, how big this logo, this is 10 inches. It'll keep the same size, but the definition or the DPI, you'll have more information in there, so it actually gets to be quite big. And this can, the bigger is not always the better, because it can take up more computer resources to read in that artwork, because it is so packed full of information. So with this, because it's not too difficult, let's go ahead and just do it at 150. And I can show you the difference again between 150 and 300 as far as physical size goes. The next option here, the anti-alias. And this option right here, what that does is I'm going to keep it on none. When you are writing it as what we call a raster file, which you'll find basically those are the most common file formats, like JPEG, TIFF, bitmap. Those files, instead of the smooth artwork that you see, you will have kind of, pixels on the edges. And with the anti-alias off, it will not filter in extra colors to make that edge look smooth. We want it off because the program is based on color recognition, and if you put in those extra colors there, it can mess it up. And I'll show you the differences if we, between choosing anti-alias and not choosing anti-alias. So with those, these, I really don't know what they are. I'm just going to leave it as is, unchecked, and press OK. And now it's writing that TIFF file. So let me go into my folders. And I will just choose this file, and I am going to just open it with Paint. This is just a basic Microsoft program. So you can see the file is quite big, and you can kind of see, at least I hope you can, kind of how rigid it is on these edges here. But if you look at it, there's no extra color in here. It's just those blues. It's the true colors. So let's go back in to Illustrator here. Let me export it a different way. And we'll go back to where we had it before. And instead of leaf 1, we're going to call it leaf 2. Export. And this time I believe we just do art optimized. Keep the RGB the same and the resolution the same, and press OK. So it's writing it. Let's go back to our folder. There's leaf 2, and I will right click and open it with Paint. So now you see how it's a little bit fuzzy? See those extra colors? It does make it look smoother, but it has extra colors. So we could possibly get those extra colors in our IDS. And that's because the program's based on color recognition. So let's go to, I was going to see if I could, I'm not familiar with Paint very much either, I guess. But you can see that, this one definitely looks different than the other one. So let's go into the folder itself. And if I look at it, if I right click on it and scroll down and select properties here, you can see that it's 6.56 megabytes, which is pretty big for something simple. Let's go back to Illustrator, and let's go ahead and export one more time. And we'll go back to the desktop, October webinar. Instead of leaf 1, we're going to call it leaf 3. Export. And this time I'm going to bring my DPI up larger and press OK. Oh, no anti-alias and OK. And let's go here. And if I select this and right click and select properties, now it's 26 megabytes. So you can see the jump, just 150 DPI. You can see what a huge jump that is. And that can take up more computer resources. So in a sense, it doesn't look any different than leaf 1. And it can, depending upon your design and all that good stuff, but it's quite a bit bigger. So sometimes this takes a lot more time to process because it is that much bigger. So let's go to IDS, and here we will import that first, or I'm sorry, not import, but insert that first design. So on the right-hand side, we'll go to Insert Image, and we will choose leaf 1 and press OK. Now when we do that, it does bring it in as a scanned image. And I believe it's probably bringing it in as a scanned image because it is seeing it as different. It has this shading in here. It's got the different greens in here. We'll leave it as scanned image, and we'll press OK. You can see it is quite big. And with it being big, it tends to do a little bit better. But you see that it is reading the different colors. It's separating the different colors, which is fine. But I think in this, we would probably just have it be one color. If you look here, as we scroll through, you can see it is quite large. Here is the original on the left-hand side, and this is the simplified. So this is what IDS is drawing for us. The thresh on the right-hand side. What that is that the detail, or the tolerance of how much detail it's going to read. A thresh of 10, it goes between 0 and 100. So it usually chooses what is best. And if I take that thresh and go down in number, and I'll just type in 5 and hit apply, it's going to take out some of that detail in there. So it actually just merged all the colors together. It's reading less colors. Let's see, let's bring it down to 2 and hit apply. And now it even combined things together. So you can see that, it's kind of a big blob. Now on the other side, if we go up and we type in 50 and I hit apply, it's going to read a lot more. And if we do see, we see an extra green in there, it might be a little bit difficult to see. For some reason, it's picking up a blue. Maybe it sees that as blue and some white. So sometimes bigger is not always better. Let's go all the way up to 100 and hit apply. And as it processes it, it may take longer on larger, images like that 26 megabyte image. So usually it chooses what is best. So we'll type in 10 here, apply that. And then if we want to combine colors, such as these greens here, we can do that, excuse me. In the edit button here, we can actually do it prior when we first bring it in. So we'll click the edit button. And with this screen, this is where I like to do some color combination and some merging. On the right-hand side, I've got my tools. I've got a zoom in and zoom out. I will just left click on the zoom out tool and place my cursor over the area and just zoom out. And you can see on the left-hand side, this is our image. On the right-hand side, this is what the program drew for us. Now, we can change things around as far as the colors go and merging things together. I'm not too concerned about the color difference on the left-hand side with the waves or the air or whatever it may be, the wind, because we can always change that. As long as they're nice and solid, that's more of what I'm concerned about in this design. And of course, all designs are different. Now, over here on the right-hand side, it's trying to pick up that gradient, which is picking up the 3 different colors. We can do a gradient, but let's leave gradients for another webinar. And we will just make this solid. So you can see that it is, 3 different greens, and this is just 1 blue. And you can actually see that over on the left-hand side here on my color bar. You see these 5 different color chips. White, you always want white because white is a background and it separates the image from the background. So it makes the image in a sense. And then you have blue, the light green, medium green, and dark green. We can choose the colors that we want on screen by going to Select Image Colors, left click on that, and now our color bar goes blank. And actually this is just going to be a little test, but on the left-hand side, on the original image, I'm going to left click on the white. I'm going to go in here and choose the dark blue, and then I will choose the lighter blue. Oh, and it looks like it is bringing it in as the same color because I can't choose it at all. And then we will choose 1 green, left click. So I'm now choosing 3 colors. Once I hit the OK button, you'll see on the right-hand side that it will merge the light green colors together. I'll press OK. So now it's merged those colors together, and now it's solid. So instead of having 3 different colors of green, which would then be different areas of stitching, it's now solid. Once I hit the exit button, it will save those settings. So I'll hit exit, And now you can see in my screen that it's now solid instead of, the different greens. I'll go ahead and hit continue. And once I hit continue, it's asking me to resize. Now this is rather large. This is the size that I exported it as, which was about like 10 inches. So here I'm going to change the Y to about, actually change the X. It's longer X. I'll change it to about 90. And then Y will automatically change because I have the maintain aspect ratio checkmarked. So we'll go ahead and press OK. And you can see actually this white box behind here, that is part of the size. Excuse me. And usually what I like to do with the white is just to get it out of my way. Now, what we see of the white right now is just the white background. And if I right click inside of it, it does select it. I'll hold my control key and right click on the other white part and then do a control delete. When I do control delete, it completely deletes it. You still see the white because that is part of the image. Now, once I hit go and generate my stitches, I have nice, full kind of just solid pieces. So I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to turn off the background image, and now you can see those nice, nice and solid. Let's go to a new design and I will insert the image and we'll do leaf 1 again. And this time we are not going to change anything and we are just going to continue. I want to show you what the difference is if we don't change the colors or don't combine anything. And again, we'll change this, change this to 90, press OK. Again, I will right click, hold my control key, right click and control delete. Then I will go ahead and hit the go button. And if you see on the left hand side here, see how I have more colors, and you can also see I have more pieces in my stitch sequence viewer. If I zoom in here and turn off the image in the background, you can see I've got a lot of little areas in here. Maybe they don't look so great. We can look at it in the 3D mode and see those are those different areas. And of course, we can always fix those. But let's go ahead and go to this one and look at the 3D. And now with this one, you only have one. So that's a little bit of an introduction to this. We're going to talk a little bit more about images and, the quality of them. And then we'll go in and we'll learn how to fix this as well. So any questions so far on this? Let's go ahead and pull out my controller. Oh, and it looks like we got a couple more people in here. So welcome. All right. So it doesn't look like we have any questions, so we'll go ahead and continue. I hope this is interesting and nobody's fallen asleep. Artwork is sometimes not very interesting, so I get it. All right, let's go back to this image. So let's take this image and I'm going to take the size of it. I'm going to bring it down in size, to what I would want it to be. Let's say 3.75. Whoops. And this is in inches. And let's say I was saving it for the web. So I want it to be very small in size so it doesn't take a long time to load. Here, this time I'm going to export it a little bit differently. I'm going to export it as, and we're going to choose a JPEG this time. I'll go back to my October webinar, and we are going to name it Leaf 4, I believe we're on, and export. Now I am going to leave it at not a very low resolution, but a lower resolution. And I'm going to leave the anti-aliasing on. So what we're doing is it's not going to have that, it's going to have kind of the fuzzy edges, if you will. We're going to leave it as RGB values and a medium quality, and we'll press OK. The DPI was 72. So let's go ahead and take this leaf. Let's open it with paint. And now you can see it's a lot smaller than that other one we had. And if I zoom in here, look how fuzzy it is. It's quite messy if you look at it. So you can see it's got all these little extra colors, even in the white. And it's kind of, I feel like our vision is just getting worse, but it's the same image. It's just saved differently. So we'll go here, and if I look at this, I can even see the file size down here. It's 23.4 KB, which is not even, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what these are. So it is low res, very low res. So what can happen here is that you start to get, a little messier. And let's see how IDS reacts to that. So we'll go to a new design. And here we will go to Insert Image. We'll take number 4 here, press OK. It's bringing it in as a scanned image. Now we did bring it down in size. We can bring it down in size as a TIFF file too, and I can show you that. But it's still going to be pretty ugly. So we'll go ahead and press OK. And if you see here, it's actually doing an okay job in that, but it's not really reading different colors. Here's our original, here's our simplified. Let's try and bring that thrush up and see what it does. And to tell you the truth, I haven't even tried this type of JPEG yet. So, that does not look very good. The thing is, if we were to bring this in and hit continue and hit OK here, look at all that. I'll go ahead and hit go, and that does not look as nice as our other ones. We even still have some of the white in there, and it must be reading a different shade of white. But let's see, and you can see all those different colors. Sometimes we are presented only with the bad artwork, in a sense. Press OK here. So let's see how we can actually fix it up a little bit by hitting OK. And let's go ahead and up the thresh. And I'll go ahead and hit apply here. And, we're definitely going to have to do some editing in the software, but let's see what we can do before we get into the software. So let's hit edit here, and we'll zoom in. So I'm using the zoom in tool. You can see how, in a sense, dirty that image is. So a lot of times these are the images that we are presented with. Here I will go through the first step as the same as we had before. And I will choose the select image colors, which looks like a little spool of thread here. Left click on that. And I can do it either on the left side or the right side. On the left side, I'm just going to choose the white background. I'm going to try to choose this green right here. I think that's kind of an intermediate green. And then I left click on the blue. And we'll just do the one blue and then press OK. Let's see what happens. And you know what? It's doing much better in that it did, it did combine a lot of things. Now we'll have to go in here and change, kind of define these areas a little bit better and whatnot. But bringing it in this way is going to turn out, I think, a little bit better than that previous one we just did. So let's go ahead and hit exit. And you can see the changes that it made. We'll hit continue. And we'll leave the size as is, press OK. I'm going to right click, hold my control key, right click, and control delete. And then we'll go ahead and generate our stitches. So this actually looks a lot better. And let's go ahead and look at this one here. You can see a big difference between the two. So it gives us a better starting point as far as editing goes with this one. Now, both of them are the exact same file. It's just different ways of bringing it in. So they are the exact same file. They have the exact same image in the background. It's just different ways of bringing it in. So would anybody like me to kind of repeat that, or any questions on this so far? And while I'm waiting on questions, I'll show you too on Illustrator. Okay, we've got the same size, and we'll go ahead and export this as a TIFF file, but at this size, so it doesn't bring it in so big. And you'll see a actual decrease in file size. So here's the desktop. We'll go to our October webinar. I think we're on number 5 here. And we will change it to a TIFF format. Hit export. And we will go to medium and leave that and press OK. So let's just look at the file size here. The file size here is 883 KB. So you can see bringing the file down in actual physical size will also help, as far as the size on your hard drive. So this one is 6.56, which this also has the 150 DPI, and we will go, although I don't remember, did we leave anti-alias on or off? Not quite sure, but that's all right. We'll go to a new design. And in here, we'll go to Insert Image. We are going to choose the 5th one. And here again, it's bringing it in as scanned image. We'll press OK. And oh, it's taken away some of my area. So let's go ahead and bring it up and apply it. Now it's reading a little bit more. And as I bring it up, it's not quite getting that other area, which is okay. We can always go into edit here. And what we need to do is create a little section. We can do this in the program, or we can do this in here. I'm just going to zoom in on this area. I'm going to right click on it. And here I am going to choose my divide area with a line. When I click on this, I'll start on the inside here. I will left click. I'm going to come across, left click, and left click. So what I'm doing is I'm separating this little piece out from the other white. Now I hit enter, and now it will pick up that green. Let's go back and zoom out, and you know what? I could do that here too. We are still on that tool, so I'll left click, bring it over, and enter. Oh, although it doesn't like that for some reason. That's okay. We can always fix it. So we will now go to pick our colors, and we are going to pick the dark blue, the light blue, the white, and a green, and press OK. And you can see that it did a little bit better. You can see that these areas are connected as well, which we can use that divide with a line, and we can also go into the program and change it. But really what I want to show you here is kind of the differences, in saving files. It can be a huge difference. So I'll exit, continue, OK, and then go. And we'll turn off the image in the background. That white box is still back there, so now I'm just going to control delete. So you can see this guy right here. And again, we'll go into how we can actually change these and fix them. But you can see such a big difference. So let's go back into Illustrator again, and let's go to File and Export, Export As. This time we're going to stick with a TIFF. And here we are going to do number 6. And I will export. And I'm going to change it to 300. And we'll press OK. It is smaller in actual physical size. You know, it wasn't as big. So as far as the size goes on the, on the file size, it's probably not, as big as this one here, which is 26. This one is 3.32 megabyte. So this is even still smaller in the file size with 150 DPI or resolution than this one over here, because it is the like about 3.75 wide as far as the physical size of it. So we'll go to New Design, and we'll go to Insert Image on the right hand side, and we'll choose number 6 here. Press OK. Leave it as a scanned image. Press OK. And here, I think we hit the jackpot on this one. So you can see it's nice and solid. If we did increase the thresh, it would probably read more colors. I think we're good with this. So we'll hit Continue and OK. And we will right click on that white background, Control Delete, and then we'll hit Go. And now we'll look at the 3D, and you can see it looks much, much better, than that previous one. So let's go to Window, and we'll tile everything. And we can see with the same exact starting point, all the different outcomes. Artwork is such a huge, it's such a huge, I guess, precursor to the digitizing. So, yeah, it's a lot of differences in this. So we're going to go to a new design, and I apologize. I'm going to ask you to just hold on a second, hang tight for me just for a quick second. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. So give me about 1 minute here. All right, thanks for holding on for me. So I'd also like to show you how we can bring in images as simple artwork, the same types of images. So we're going to go here to this insert image, and we are going to choose leaf number 4. And that's a JPEG. I do this a lot with JPEGs. We did touch on this with the last webinar, but I'll press OK here. And instead of scanned image, I'll do simple artwork. In doing the simple artwork, if I just go ahead and hit OK, I think what it will do is basically digitize the artwork as it sees when I first brought it in as a scanned image. So you can kind of see how that worked out. Let's go to a new design. We'll go to Insert Image, and we're going to take the leaf number 4, press OK. And in here, we're going to change it to Simple Artwork, deselect this auto select, and click on Pick Color here. When we do that, we can zoom in, and our cursor is now an eyedropper. And with that eyedropper, I can see that image and the colors that the image has. So as I move my cursor around, you can see that RGB value fluctuate on the bottom. I am going to choose the white, so I place my cursor over the white and left click. Then over the green, left click. I'm going to choose the dark blue, left click, and the light blue, left click, and then press OK. So white is always a color. You'll notice that your maximum colors goes down to 4. Press OK. Once we do that, we'll press OK again, and let's see what the program has done. We'll go ahead and hit go. And you can see that it did separate those colors out. Let's zoom in. And it read quite a bit more than it did on the last one. So we do have some little, small little pieces in here. You can see that. You can see that flashing here. It's not as nice and smooth as what we had with the TIFF files, but that's okay. These are things that we can change in the software. But again, these are different things that I want to show you that, different files, even though they look, nice on screen, especially something like this at a smaller percentage, oh, it looks great. It looks nice and easy and simple, but when we blow it up, it looks quite dirty. And that's what the program is trying to process and trying to retrace. And of course, we always have the option to retrace it ourselves. But, really what I wanted to hit upon, in this first part of the webinar is how different artwork can be. And one of the things that I do always tell people when they ask me a question, it says, well, it depends. So it looks like we do have some questions. Question here, is Illustrator a separate program or is it part of Windows? Illustrator is a separate program. Now, with Illustrator, I just opened up a vector file that is like EPS or AI or CDR. Not all files will always be vector files. You may only have access to files like what we see on screen. And these are files that we might download from we might download from the internet, we might download, from somebody's website, or that's the only thing that they have to offer to give us. So sometimes we are stuck with not so great artwork. So understanding how to bring it in different ways is going to be very helpful in, bringing in your designs. Although if you do get a vector file and you do have access to Illustrator or CorelDRAW or something similar, understanding how to export it is going to be helpful as well. We can also export these as JPEGs if we want, but JPEGs just tend to have a lot of extra color information. So, I'm a fan of the TIFF file, and sometimes too we can, export it a little bit larger, but then bring it down in size in the program. So I'm just going to make it 4 inches wide. And now I will go to File and Export as. This time we will go, let's see, to our October. Oh, that's not it. We're going to go to Leaf 7, but we're going to do a JPEG with it. And we'll hit Export. But this time I'm going to do a higher DPI. I'll do a better quality, and we will do no anti-alias. And I'm just guessing on these settings. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm just kind of guessing right now. So I'll press OK, and we'll go to IDS. We'll go to a new design, And we'll go to Insert Image. Here's number 7. Press OK. And it is a scanned image. Let's just see how it does. Press OK. It's reading it. Oh, look at that. That's perfect. That is great. Continue. And we will bring it down in size. Press OK. And it wasn't that much that we had brought it up in size. You know, it was only 10 millimeters. And then we'll hit go. And you can see, you know, it's much nicer than before. So that looks pretty good. You know, again, it's just going to be understanding the differences in your file, you know, kind of dissecting that file itself to see, you know, how to best go about it. And by understanding these techniques on bringing them in, you know, you might try a couple different times to bring a design in to see how IDS can read it best. Again, you're not always going to have access to, you know, a beautiful vector file to export. You may only have, you know, a JPEG or something similar. So again, let me check our question box real quick. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for hanging in there. Now let's go to one of these designs that maybe did not turn out so great. And okay, we got a lot of these guys up here. Here's this one. And you know, sometimes too with this one, let's say, you know, with something like that, I would almost just start if that's all that if that's the best that you could do, I would start from scratch and just manually punch it because it is such a simple piece of artwork. So I'm not even going to go over cleaning this up. It wouldn't even be worth the time. It would be so much faster to manually punch it. If we have time, I'll show you how I would manually punch it, but I mean, this just doesn't seem even worth my time. You know, look at all those little spaces or all those areas I would go in, delete and reshape. It's not worth it. Let's go back and tile. Let's see. So these ones that are nice and clean, I'm not really going to go over. Let's take unsaved 4 first. Yeah, let's take this one first. So with this one, you see that it is just not shaped very well. If we go to the outline view, that's up here at the top, or I can go up to view and then view outline. In view outline, you will see the areas that this stitching is following. I'd also like to have my image up in the background. So that's the hide view image up here, or you can go up to view and then hide image, sorry. There it is right there, hide image. So with it check marked, that image is going to go away. With it not check marked, you're going to see it. So what we have here is we have, you know, if I right click on these areas, it's showing me what those areas are and what they, you know, consist of. So let's start on these kind of the blue areas right here. And I'm just going to start here in this little one and go around and fix each one. So I will zoom in. I like to zoom in as close as possible on this area. And I'd like to reshape it. I'm going to press Escape to get out of the tool. After I have zoomed in on the area, it is right-click selected, so this is the area that I can work on. I'd like to go up to Outline on my main menu bar and Edit Outline Mode. And this is the way that I would approach it. In Edit Outline Mode, I do have these nodes that I can move. I can move nodes, I can add nodes, I can delete nodes, I can alter the angles between nodes, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take this node, bring it down with a left click, hold, and drag. And I am only changing this area that I am selected on. You can also see it on the left-hand side. It's shaded in here. So I'm going to left click, hold, and drag. I'm going to left click, hold, and drag. Going to bring this out a little bit, make this a little bit thicker, maybe a little bit taller. Take this one, left click, hold, and drag. Now I've got this weird kind of shape here. With these three nodes, I'm actually going to delete them. So I'm going to, we can do it a couple of different ways. We can select it and then hit delete on our keyboard, or we can right click on the node and delete point. Right click on the node and delete point. It actually kind of corrected itself for us. And I'm just moving those nodes a little bit to get that shape. I am crossing into that green area a little bit just to make sure I get an overlap. If that had not arced for us, I would have taken this red line, put my cursor over it, right click, hold, and drag, and I can alter this with a with kind of like an arc. I can bring that in a little bit if I'd like, and you can see that this is pretty pixelated. You can even see all the little, dirt pieces over there. And I am just going to continue. I'm not going to generate. I'm just going to continue. So we're going to go to this next area right here. I right click on it. I'm still in the outline view. And if you look, I'm still in the edit outline mode. And I can see that because it is red. It's highlighted red. With this selected, I'm not seeing that whole shape. So I can use this tool called Zoom Selected Object. If I left click on that, it zooms in just on the object I have selected. So you can see there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on down here. One thing that I can do is I can adjust this full line with a straight line instead of having to go in and delete all of these nodes here. That's what I did on this one here, where I deleted the nodes, whereas this one I'm going to adjust with a straight line. I can be in this mode, or I can be in the regular outline mode. Right now I'm in the edit outline mode. Doesn't matter. I can still go up to outline on the main menu bar to get the tools, left click on that, and go to adjust with a line. When I left click adjust with a line, my cursor turns into a little crosshair. And what I need to do is I see this segment right here, and this segment needs to be adjusted into a straight line. So what are the 2 points? What are the 2 endpoints of this segment? That's right here, left click, and right here, left click. When I select those 2 endpoints, I can now put my cursor over the segment. With that segment selected, it highlights blue, and then I can left click, and it selects it. It changes it with a straight line. Now don't get confused with this area underneath. That area is not selected. That is my green area. So after I've changed that, I press escape to get out of the tool, and now I can go in and I can move my nodes appropriately. I can move it down. I can kind of get closer to that shape. I don't really need this node, so I can right click on it and delete the point. I can move this node down. These are just left clicks, hold, and drags. So sometimes when I'm changing things like this, the stitching can go a little out of whack. And that's because I had that crazy segment there. Let's right click off to the side to deselect, and let's generate our stitches of what we've changed so far. So you can see that this one, we've got all these crazy stitches, and I believe it's because of the segment before was a little bit crazy. So this happens a lot of times. I get a lot of questions on this. I'm trying to change these angles and they're not changing and I can't delete them and things like that. Now, this is a whole nother section, but one thing to remedy this, especially on something like this, is that I reset the stitch type essentially. So with it right click selected, I'll change it to a complex fill first, and then I'll change it to a satin. And if you see that, look how much nicer that turns out. And it's because it was taking the angles from the original segments. This one, same thing. What I'll do is I'll change it to a complex fill first, and then I'll change it to a satin angle or satin stitch. Looks much, much nicer. So we'll kind of go over that a little bit after we, fix this artwork here, and then we can go in and set our stitch types. But I just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit. Let's zoom the whole design here. So you can see we're getting a little bit better as we go through. I'm going to turn off the 3D view. I'm not a fan of working on it all the time. I'm going to right click on this next section. Now this next section, they are merged together. And with it merged together, I need to divide them, or I need to cut them apart from one another. Now, with it merged together, I need to find out where I need to cut it. So we're going to zoom in right here. That's where we need to separate it. And we will go back to the outline view. But first I hit escape to get out of the tool. I'll go up to view and then view outline. And in view outline, it is just on the regular selected area. If I want to go into the edit outline mode, I can and still use the tools that I want to use. Just remember that it's selected a little bit differently. This is, selected with a gray crosshatch, whereas if I go to outline and edit outline mode, you can see that red and the nodes. So with it selected still, I'm going to go up to outline, and we're going to go to divide with line. When I choose divide with line, my cursor turns into a little crosshair. I don't have to be exact on this. I can change it, with our other tools, but I'm going to try and get close to this corner right here. And we are starting outside the red area, or starting outside of our area. Left click. I cross over into the other area, come all the way across, cross over that red line, and left click. Once I make my 2 points, I can hit enter to end the inputting. If I don't like a point I made, I can always hit backspace and go back one at a time. Now, divide with a line gives me 2 points that I can make. Divide with a curve will give me multiple points. But once I hit enter, I'll press escape to get out of the tool. I'm going to right click off to the side, and now this piece is separated. So now I can go into this piece, zoom selected object, and I can reshape it. I will just left click, hold, and drag to change my nodes. I'm going to right click on this little area. That way I'm changing it with more of an arc. I'm going to right click on this node here, delete the point. I will bring this node down a little bit and right click, hold, and drag on that red line right there. And maybe bring it a little bit closer together. I don't want it to be too close. Right click, hold, and drag. And so you can see I'm using that template in the background to help guide me. I'm going to right click off to the side. I'll regenerate my stitches. Now you can see it is, let's go ahead and zoom the whole design. I will look at it in 3D. It's green, but it's different. So let's change it to the blue. If I right click on this, with it right click selected, I can go up to the blue color chip that's already up here. It's the existing blue. I'm going to match it by placing my cursor over that color chip and right clicking. So when I right click, you can now see that it's the same color blue. I've also separated this leaf part, from this area. So let's go down to the next areas. We will zoom in here. I'm going to turn off the 3D, right click off to the side, and go to the view outline. So left click on view outline. We'll right click on this guy right here, and we will go to outline and edit outline mode. And here I will go ahead and left click, hold, and drag and move my nodes. It doesn't look like this one needs much editing as far as, the other tools that we were using. So I'm just utilizing my left click, hold, and drag on the nodes and the right click, hold, and drag on the red line. I'm going to overlap it just a little bit. I'd actually like to add a node right here. And what I'm going to do here is left click on it, on that red line, left click, hold, and drag, and I've added a node. So I'm kind of adding, it a little bit so that it can cross over. I'll go ahead and hit go. We can change that later. I'll reset that stitching. I go back to the outline view, right click on this next section using my arrows. I'm going to get that into view. I'll go to outline and edit outline mode. I'm going to bring that down in here, and I'm just left clicking, holding, and dragging. And again, it's just left clicking, holding, and dragging on the node, or right clicking, holding, and dragging on that red line. We'll adjust it with arcs. That one looks good. Let's right click on this guy. I'm going to delete a node, so I right click on it, hit delete point, right click, delete point. I'm going to left click, hold, and drag. And again, don't get confused with this because that is that green area. If you are ever wondering what area you are selected on, you can always refer over here to the left-hand side on that stitch sequence viewer. So I am moving the nodes around, left click, hold, and drag, right click, hold, and drag. And these tools, these techniques are a lot of what I use. So I right click, hold, and drag, and you can also drag it more to like a straight line. So you can see that there. Let's go ahead and zoom the whole design. Now with these three, I'm going to hold my control key and select these three. And I am going to go to Auto Judge, change it to a complex fill, and then change it back to a satin. It looks a lot better that way. So now let's go to the leaf. We have two sections of the leaf, and I'd like to merge them together. We can also divide them so that we have a little bit more control over the stitching, but let's merge them together. Let's first fix this side right here. And I am going to zoom on the selected object. And actually, I'm going to zoom out just one bit. And I'm going to go to View and View Outline. So in my View Outline, I can see that there's some kind of wonky little areas here. And first, we are going to smooth them out. I'd like to view my design in the edit outline mode because I'd like to see that image in the background, make sure I'm following it properly. So I will go up to outline and edit outline mode. And I'm still in the zoom out tool, so I'm going to hit escape. And here I'm going to start and move the node, left click, hold, and drag. And I'm going to move it, left click, hold, and drag. Now the reason I did that is I'm kind of creating this starting point. And I am going to utilize a tool. Instead of deleting all these nodes and adjusting it with the red line, I'm going to use a tool called adjust with an arc. So while I am selected on the area, I'll go to outline and adjust with an arc and left click. I left click here. It's my starting point of the segment. So I want to go from here, following the segment, all the way up to here. That's where I want to end, and left click. So I've isolated the segment. This is the segment I want to adjust. Place my cursor over that segment, left click, and now I can adjust it with an arc. And I am just moving the mouse. I don't have anything. I'm not holding the left click or anything. Once I get it into place, I left click to set it. I'm still in the tool, so to get out of the tool, I hit escape. I see here it's a little bit bulbous, so I'm just going to go ahead and right click, hold, and drag. I kind of make that a little bit, not as archy, I guess. I don't know. Sorry. This one right here, I'm going to go ahead and right click and delete point. And then I can go ahead and, move that arc line however I want. So these are the tools that I would use to kind of go in and change things around, just on that side. Now on this side here, I am going to, we're gonna need some help here. But first, we do need to merge it into this area here. And if I cross this area over, go ahead and I'm overlapping. Let's go ahead and fix this a little bit. So I'm actually going to right click and delete this point, and then right click, hold and drag. You can see it looks like a nice arc there. And then on this side, I'm going to utilize that adjust with an arc, but I'm going to use it twice. And it's because this arc kind of dips and then goes out. So it's kind of two arcs. So we'll go up to outline on our main menu bar, adjust with an arc. I'm going to start from here, and I'm going to go to here first. Left click. Left click on the segment, and then left click, move it, and then left click to set it. I'm going to go ahead and hit yes here. Left click and left click on the segment, arc it, and left click to set. Press escape to get out of the tool. And actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to reset the stitching. I'm going to change it to a complex fill and then change it to a satin. And the reason I did that is because before we had some, I believe we had some stitch angles that were probably messing up when I changed it, and that's why it gave us that the outlines are crossed. So let's go back to the view outline. I'll right click in here and let's start changing it. So we will go to outline, edit outline mode, and I'm going to start moving the nodes and kind of get to those corner points where I think they should be. I'm going to go ahead and let's actually start up here. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to right click, hold and drag, right click, hold and drag. And if you're wondering, how do you know which tools to use and when, really it's a matter of playing in the software and just getting used to those tools and whatever is best for you. Now some people might use something different than me, to fix things like this. So there's no wrong way on how to do it, just as long as you know how to use those tools. So I'm doing again the left clicks on the nodes to move, right clicks on the nodes to delete, right click on the red line to kind of adjust those areas. I can use the tool adjust with an arc here, and we're going to go up to outline, adjust with an arc. I'm going to left click here and left click here, select that segment, left click one time, adjust it, and left click again. And we're going to go from here to here, left click, and I'm going to go from here to here, left click, and then from here to about here. Left click and left click. Press escape to get out of the tool. Now with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap into here, but I'm going to adjust this area with a straight line. So I'm going to go up to outline, adjust with a line, go from here to here, just because this piece goes outside this other piece right here, just with a straight line. So now they're overlapped, which is great. Let's go ahead and generate our stitches. And now let's take these two areas. I'm in the outline view. This area is selected. With a right click, I'm going to hold Control, right click on this other area, and now go up to outline and merge. And now it's merged. Now I see a little itty bitty area right here that I don't like. So I'm going to go to outline, edit outline mode, put in an extra node. I'll delete that point, right click, hold and drag, right click off to the side. Let's go ahead and look at the whole design and generate stitches. So you can see it looks much, much better. So, all right, so we got a question about going back to importing an image or inserting an image. Which program do you suggest, Corel or Illustrator? And really, it's whatever you're more comfortable with. With Corel and Illustrator are both programs that handle vector artwork. I'm just more comfortable in Illustrator. I actually have both on this computer, but I think Corel is probably cheaper. In this industry, a lot more people use Corel over Illustrator because these programs are PC based, and Corel does not have a Mac based program. Only Illustrator has PC and Mac. So as far as using either one, what I always tell people is find out what what kind of support you'll get from it. There's a lot of great videos online on YouTube for both Corel and Illustrator. But kind of the price ticket is better on Corel, and that's just the way that it is, unfortunately. Again, I don't have any one favorite. I just know Illustrator better than Corel, and that's why I tend to go to Illustrator. Also, my husband works on Illustrator, so that's, if I ever have a question, he can't really help me on Corel, so I always call him up and ask him a question. As far as the version really doesn't matter because when you export it, you're exporting it as a raster file. So, I'd probably get the newer versions. Now, one thing about Corel and Illustrator, I think with Illustrator and Adobe products, they are on a subscription. As far as I think you can do subscription or just buy it outright. So you might have to research that. But again, either program, I think is sufficient for this need right here. So I am going to zoom that image back to 100%. We're going to hide that image in the background, and let's look at it in the 3D mode. And you can see it looks much, much better than we had before. The only thing that I would probably change here is that this leaf is going to stitch in an awkward position. It's stitching in number 6. So I just left clicked on that frame in the stitch sequence viewer, and I'm going to left click, hold, and drag it, bring it down, and just have it stitch last. Also, I see here, I just want to see how this is all stitching out. And it looks like it's stitching a little bit erratically. This is on auto judge right now, and I'm also going to change that to satin stitch because I want that to be a satin stitch. But I would like to change the order of the stitching, and to do that, in this instance, I'm going to use the zoom all, and I'm going to go to, I'm going to turn off the 3D view. I'm going to go up to accessories and set stitching order. And I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go 1, left click, 2, left click, 3. You can see that they now have numbers on them. And that's what's going to stitch first, second, third. Now let's say I accidentally choose this one as 4th. If I choose something that I want to, go over, I can hit backspace and go back one at a time. 4, 5, and 6, and then 7. I hit enter on my keyboard to set it. Things are going to change around a little bit. I'll press escape to get out of the tool. Right click off to the side and hit go and generate my stitches. So it's going to do closest point connection, which, maybe I don't like that right here. I see my in and out points whenever I right click on an area. It's going to start here and end here. And then this one is probably going to start right here. So what I'd like it to do is I want it to end down here, so I'm left-clicking, holding, and dragging. And then I right-click here, and I want that endpoint to start down here. Right-click off to the side. Let's see if those green stitches will cover it. I'll regenerate my stitches, and now you can see it travels underneath. The next thing, I want to make sure my out point is down here on this one, and whereas the endpoint is down here. And we'll go ahead and generate our stitches, and looks like it's pretty good. I might go in there and overlap it a little bit more. So if I go to the outline view, right click again. This is another way to get your tools, is to right click again inside the area. Go to edit outline mode, and I'm just going to bring this down a little bit, and I can do that over here, bring it down just a tiny bit. And then right click off to the side to deselect and generate my stitches. So this one, for some reason, didn't go all the way down, and I believe it's because of our angles. And I'm just going to take that angle and bring it down. Oh, or maybe I'll just reset that stitching. Sometimes I have to play with things a little bit to get it right. Okay, so now let's go ahead and zoom the whole design. And I can see that this, actually if I hide this, you can see the travel stitch going from here to here. Let's turn that back visible. That's just with that eyeball right there. I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to have the out point back down here. I'm going to have the end point of this guy down here, and out point down here. I'm going to have the end point down here, and the out point I can probably just leave back up here. Right click off to the side and generate my stitches. So you can see now none of those stitches are coming out. As far as the green, I think it looks pretty good. And the only thing is that if I look at my 3D mode, you can see the way that the corner is. I could do a couple of things. Number one, I could change the in and out points, although it might change the way that this looks. But because these corners are going in different directions, one thing I might want to do here to have a little bit more control over how it overlaps is go into my outline view. I'm going to right click to get out of the zoom tool, going to right click again, and I'm going to go to divide with a curve. And in here, I'm going to start outside the area. I'm going to left click. I'm going to kind of try and keep this curve going. I'll right click, and then come out here and left click. Hit enter, press escape to get out of the tool, right click off to the side. I see this little area right here that I don't quite like. You see how it's kind of jetting out. So I will go to outline, edit outline mode. I'm going to bring that up here, right click, delete the point, and right click, delete this point, bring that out, and maybe bring this down. And I'm just adjusting this so, again, I have a little bit more control over the way this stitches, the stitching order in a sense. And so let's go ahead and we'll zoom the whole design so you can see how I divided it, and we'll regenerate. So now you see that this kind of covers this other area. So the end point's there, the out point's there, and then my end point's there. I'm going to bring the out point down here. I just want it to stitch nice and smooth all the way down. Regenerate, and now you can see my changes. So you can see what we started with and what we ended up with. And unfortunately, I think we don't have enough time to go completely over the next one. So what I will do is leave this kind of for questions. And what I will do too is I will I'll go ahead and in the email that goes out to you guys, give this to you as a practice image in a couple different formats, like the JPEG and the TIFF. and that way you can download it and kind of practice with what we've done. But hopefully this kind of gives you a good insight into images and how images are handled in the software, and how we can make them better. The images are different all over, and I hope I showed that to you in the beginning. So if you do have any questions, please go ahead and put those questions out there. If you don't have any questions, or if you have a suggestion or something, I'd love to hear it. You can email me those suggestions. I do have a suggestion on a couple of different webinars, doing one on, shading, which I'd like to touch on maybe in 1 or 2 webinars, because it does, there's quite a bit that goes into shading and understanding stitch types and things like that. But it also had a inquiry about a sequence webinar, and I think I might do a sequence webinar kind of external to these, these ongoing webinars, just for people who want to learn the sequence. So it might be in addition to a monthly webinar. If you need to email me, my email address is andrea@zskmachines.com. And let's go ahead and I'll show you on our screen. So it would be andrea@zskmachines.com. Yeah, so if you have any questions, I have been a little backlogged, but I'm catching up, so I apologize for any delays that I've put on emails. We have a big show coming up in Novi, Michigan, which should be pretty cool. So hopefully I explained things really well, and that's why we don't have any questions. Again, if you need anything, just let me know. You can put in the chat box, you can put in the question box, and this will be available to you, as soon as it's rendered and uploaded and all that good stuff. So thank you for coming. And again, I'm going to stick around if you do have questions. But if not, you are, go ahead and get on your day and start stitching out some cool stuff and digitizing, and yeah. So if you'd like to leave the webinar, you can just go to, I think it's just, you can just close out your control panel thing, or you can go to File and Exit. But again, I'm just going to stick around for a couple more minutes. And again, thanks for coming. I know it's hard to get away from business, but I really appreciate the attendance here. Had a question here. Thanks for the great info. How do you punch a 5-pointed star? To punch a 5-pointed star, I think I might have a video on that, but that's going to take a little bit more time than 5 minutes. So, but I can show you. Oh yeah, and the webinar on how to import photos. This webinar was kind of to introduce importing photos to understanding artwork. So Greg, I appreciate you reminding me on that. But yes, importing photos will be a webinar that we will do, but I kind of want to ease into it because I want to artwork, especially photos, has all that extra information and how we can go in and clean it up. So I hope this was a good introduction to that and understanding, the resolutions and how the program reads designs. So again, I appreciate that, Greg. As far as manually punching a star, first of all, the big thing is to have a star to start from. We can use this insert star, but when you have a 5-pointed star and we generate our stitches, well, with these, this is kind of fun because we can change how that star looks. But I'm going to hit enter here. It is one piece, so we'd like to, when we stitch it, it is, you know, all one stitch and it's all mushed together. So with a 5-pointed star, what I like to do is go in to my outline view, and this is if you have something already created. If you need to manually punch it, let's just use this as my background. If you need to manually punch it, I would use this Create Satin Side to Side tool, and I'd left click on it to start it. The way the Satin Side to Side works is that it works kind of like building a ladder. You build a rung and then you build the length of it. So we're going to start, we'll start here. We're going to zoom in a little bit first. Okay, I'm still in the Satin tool, and I'm going to left click and left click for my first 2 points. So that's the angle and the width of that area. Then I'm going to come here, I'm going to left click and come over here and left click. And then I'm going to come towards that center, left click and left click and hit enter. And then I would work, usually I work clockwise. So I'm going to start here, left click, left click, left click, and left click, and then left click and left click, enter. And I'm going to just keep going. So left click, left click, left click, left click, left click, and left click, enter. Press escape to get out of the tool. I want to show you what I have so far. And you can see the difference between how these look. You could also go in to this area and go to our outline view. We can go to outline, edit outline mode so we can see through the star. And this little icon at the top here, this is my, it's my grid aligning tool. And what I can do is kind of align the grid to where I see center. Let go of my grid align tool, and then go up to outline and divide with a curve. In dividing with a curve, I'll go through the corner points, but I'll start here. I'll left click, go to that center point that I made, left click, and left click. Divide with a curve allows me to select multiple points to divide with. Hit enter. I press escape, right click off to the side, so then I can isolate each one. So I right click here, I'll right click again inside, and divide with a line. I only need to use divide with a line because I only need 2 points. Left click here and left click here, and I'm trying as hard as I can to go right through those corners. Enter. Press escape, right click here. I then go to outline, divide with line, left click, enter, escape, right click off to the side, right click here. And you can see that I'm not dividing it correctly in that, I might have to go do some changes here. Right click again, divide with line, left click and left click, enter, press escape, right click off to the side. I'll right click here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on each one. I'll right click and delete this point, right click, hold, and drag. Right click on this guy, zoom selected object, right click, delete this point, right click, hold, and drag. So really what I want is I just want basically these corners to have one node each. If I zoom in here, maybe I'll right click, delete point. So I'm really trying to simplify it. Or you can do what I had done prior and do each area. In doing it this way too, you may have to go in and change the stitch angles. So we're just going in and altering it. Right click, delete point. I mean, you might want to overlap a little bit. Now we can generate these. These are all complex fill. So I would go to Satin, and it looks like we need to change those angles too. But that's kind of a quick way to show you what that was. So hope that helps. Oh, looks like it did. Perfect. Any other questions that we might have? And, we'll go over more manual punching as, these webinars go on. We're just kind of, easing into different things here. So again, I appreciate all of you coming. If you do have anything that you need help with, just let me know. I'd be happy to help. And otherwise, I am actually going to end the webinar, and it will be available shortly. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.